So what's going on, guys? DIY Dan here, and this is another episode of Animal House. So we've got a Great Dane Hound mix that we rescued about 6 months ago because she was in a bad situation. She was very leery of me at first and didn't even want to touch the pool. After being patient and working with her for about a month, now she absolutely loves the pool, and she has destroyed a handful of toys within a couple weeks. She's actually done so much of a 180 with the pool that I'm actually having to work with her on being too aggressive in the pool because she has jumped in on me when I've splashed. So we're working on that right now. But irregardless of that, the point of this video, guys, is I'm going to show you what she has destroyed as far as the toys we had. And because of that, I went on Amazon and I ordered 4 dog toys that were for aggressive chewers that did float in the pool. So being as though she's only been in the pool for a couple weeks now, we were just using toys we had. So we had a couple old footballs. We had a plastic ball that was floating at one point, and that one actually held up the best for what we had until she chewed a big hole in it. Now all these toys have actually started sinking, and that does not stop her from going for them, which is fine for when they're on the Baja step. However, when they're out in the middle of the pool, it does develop a problem. The other obvious issue with all these toys and balls that she has destroyed is the fact that all these little pieces end up in the pool and she could possibly ingest them as well, which obviously is not a good thing. So while you're seeing these old toys and how destructive she was with them, I'm going to explain the main things I'm going to go over in this video. The first one is, obviously, does it float and is it easy for her to retrieve in the water? The second thing, obviously, is because she's so destructive, is how they hold up to her chewing. And as a little side note on that, I'll show you which one I prefer for tug of war because she does love to do that, especially in the pool. I'll also be going over how much these toys cost and whether I think the value is there for how much I paid. Then at the end of this video, I'm going to show you what I treat her ears with to prevent ear infections because she's in the pool almost every day during the summer, and that can lead to a vet bill if you don't keep on top of that. So the 4 toys that I bought off of Amazon were all labeled for aggressive chewers. If it didn't say that in the title or in the description, I didn't even bother with it. All these toys also had a 4 out of 5 or above star rating. All of these toys are also available in different sizes depending on the size of your dog. I obviously bought the largest ones that were possible because Harley Quinn is 80 pounds. So I did do this review in one weekend. However, I think you're going to be surprised at how much damage my dogs were able to inflict on these toys in that weekend. And that was indoor as well as outdoor and in the pool for probably a minimum of about 4 hours that weekend. So let's get to it. So as far as the dogs having a preference in which toy they like the best, I really feel it was pretty even. I did throw all 3 or 4 toys out in the pool at the same time to see if she would consistently bring back the same toy, and that just never really happened. So the first one I'm going to show you is this so-called Indestructible chew ring, and it did hold up pretty good, I think, for what she was doing with it. So one thing I will say about this review, guys, is I actually let her just sit there and gnaw on these things endlessly. So the abuse that was putting on these toys in one weekend was probably equivalent to months of actual abuse that they would normally take. For example, after this weekend, I will be putting 3 of the 4 of these toys away and only pulling them out when we are playing in the pool. And I think I will get months and months of use out of each one of these 3 toys. Whereas if I let it happen, what happened this weekend, they would probably only last a couple of weeks. Now this toy was very easy for her to retrieve in the water. It was very buoyant and very easy for her to grab onto. It was also my second favorite for tug of war. One good thing I will say about this toy is it is all made out of the exact same material. There is not an inner and outer core. And therefore, even if she gnaws it in half, it's still going to be very buoyant and still good to use in the pool. However, the more and more she gnawed on this thing, the easier and easier it started coming apart. And therefore, out of the 4 toys that are in this review, it's actually the last one that I would purchase again. And I don't think the first word in the description of the title of your toy should be indestructible if a dog can do what my dog did in a single weekend. The next one was made by Chuck It, and this one was also very easy for her to retrieve in the water. The rope made it nice to throw it. It wasn't as good for tug of war, obviously, but you could put a couple extra knots in that rope to give an extra grip. The material that was underneath the fabric was pretty much the same material as what was on that ring. That layer of fabric is holding up pretty good. And being as though this one is only $14, making it like $7 or $8 cheaper than that ring, it's definitely a little bit more economical. However, she did split open the one side, and the material that is inside this toy, I got a feeling is going to start shredding out once she makes that a little bigger. And my guess is if she starts removing that inner core of this toy, it's going to lose some of its buoyancy. So I do think if you were just planning on using a toy for fetch in the pool and not as worried about the tug-of-war aspect, that this is a good choice for what you pay. The next one was another fitness ring made by LaRue. Now these two fitness rings were the same price. However, I would pick this one over the other one if I were to buy them again. Reason being is the design of it seemed better for me for tug-of-war. It was also very buoyant and very easy for her to grab in the water. I think both of the fitness rings were made out of very similar materials. However, the LaRue just felt like it was a little tougher than the first one. And I think durability-wise is going to hold up a little better. And once again, this does not have an inner and then an outer core, so even if it gets chopped in half, it will still be buoyant and it will still float and be usable in the pool. One thing I will say about the two fitness rings, she did seem to prefer the yellow one over this LaRue, and I'm not really quite sure what the reasoning for that is. Irregardless of that, if I was going to purchase one of these two rings again, I would be purchasing this one. But I do feel they are very comparable to each other. So last but not least, guys, is the Kong. And anybody who has a dog that is a massive chewer, the Kong will hold up. I had no doubt about that. My curiosity with the Kong is how buoyant it was going to be. And it did barely stay above the water. Now, she had no problems getting it. However, that could be an issue maybe with some dogs. If you did toss the Kong nice and high, it would actually go under the water instead of staying above and then float to the top. Unlike the other three toys where it would stay buoyant as soon as they hit the water. I will say that for tug-of-war, this was my least favorite toy. One thing I was a little concerned with as far as durability goes with this Kong when I opened it up was the rope that was on it. And I was correct in that assumption because they destroyed the rope within the first day of playing with it between her and my boxer, Dozer. So I was able to take this Kong apart and put a new rope in it. However, when you're paying $17 for a dog toy, you kind of expect it to come with a durable rope to begin with. To replace that rope, all I did was grab a long rod and go through the small side of the Kong and push that foam insert out of the bottom of the Kong. Then grabbed a new rope with a piece of wire to help feed that rope back into the Kong and reinsert that foam insert. One thing to this is, if your dog does ever manage to remove that foam insert, it is no longer going to be buoyant and is going to sink to the bottom of the pool. So all of these toys did have positives and negatives to them. So hopefully this video helped you out in figuring out which one might work best for your situation. So in my opinion, guys, if you're worried about overall durability of the toy itself and nothing else really matters, I would go with the Kong. Between the two fitness rings, I would go with the LaRue. And if you're looking for the best bang for the buck, strictly for fetch in the pool, I would go with the Chuck It. So my guess is, if you're watching this video, you've probably got a dog that enjoys the pool like mine does. And if that's the case, you want to make sure that you dry out your dog's ears so they don't possibly get an ear infection. So right here, I've got a 50-50 mix of rubbing alcohol and white vinegar, and I'm just using a syringe. I fill the syringe up a little bit and then just put a little bit of that in each ear and rub it around inner ear. The rubbing alcohol will help eliminate any moisture that's stuck in her ear, and the vinegar is an antibacterial. Now in between each ear, you want to let her shake any residual that's still in that ear out. You could also use cotton balls, but since I'm doing this on a pretty daily basis, my goal is to remove any residual moisture, not really clean the ears every day. Hopefully this video gave you guys some good information and it helped you out. If so, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate it. The whole concept of my channel is to give you guys the most information in the least amount of time as possible so I don't waste your time. And I hope to see you next time. Have a good one. Later.